Verna, let's go ahead and get started so you and I can converse, and then we'll talk to Brenda a little bit. First of all, just for the purpose of this recording, since someday somebody will want to listen to this and learn what you had to say, we want to get your full name on here. So put your full name on there.
Verna Boffman Simross.
Verna Boffman Simross. I'm just watching your levels, and you can speak up a little bit if you want. And you were born what year?
1926.
And Licking County, Ohio? Where were you born?
On Swans Road.
Wow, you stay pretty close to home, haven't you?
Swans Road.
Do you remember the address on Swans Road?
Route 1.
Route 1?
Back then.
Let's just get a little biographical information on you here, too. Where did you go to school?
Licking Valley. No. Well, Madison first, and then Licking Valley. Or, not Licking... Well, I was Licking Valley.
You were in the Licking Valley area.
But I went to Nurk High.
Yeah, so you went to Madison School for your elementary?
And Lincoln for the 9th grade, and then on up to the high school for the rest of the year.
What year did you graduate?
45.
Wow, the end of the war. Went to high school during the war years.
Yep.
And just for biographical purposes again, so that someone listening to this wouldn't know you, you were married?
Yes.
To?
Bill Simross.
Bill Simross.
And he died 16 years ago.
16?
Or 26 years ago. I'm all right.
Is that right? 26 years ago? He's been gone for a while, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And just so for anyone listening to this, they'll know that we're recording this on the 20th day of August 2013. So if they want to do the math backwards, they can do that. And so you've lived pretty much out in the valley your whole life.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's just talk about your relationship to the children's home, because again, people listening to this are going to be probably doing some research on the history of the children's home. They're going to want to know your remembrances. First of all, how did you come about to get a job down there? Who'd you know? What happened there?
Oh, Uncle Walt and Aunt Mary. That's Bill's cousin. They always called them Aunt Mary and Uncle Walt Zerger. That's how we got there.
So they basically sought you out to come to work there, or did you seek them out?
Both ways. They asked us, or I guess I can't remember back too far.
What year are we talking about when you went to work there?
47.
So were you really just out of high school, about 20-year-old or something?
Just got married and
just got hitched and
yep.
Went to work at the children's home. Was it a pretty good job?
Well, it was a job anyway.
Yeah. Well, now tell me about the arrangements, because I understand you worked in the laundry and that you resided on the property. How did that work? Was that actually your first home as a married couple?
Yes, that was free rent for working.
So part of your compensation was you lived there at the apartment?
Yeah.
Was it a big apartment? What did it look like?
It was three rooms and a bath.
All you needed for the moment, huh?
Right.
Well, let's talk about the living side of it, then we'll talk about the laundry side. So you had a small apartment there, like a second floor apartment above it?
Yes. It was above the laundry.
Yeah, yeah. Was it a wooden building?
As far as I know of, it was.
It wasn't a brick. I mean, the children's home was kind of brick.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't.
Okay.
That's been too many years ago.
Okay, well, that's fine. That's fine. I'm just kind of picking your brain a little bit here. Let's talk about the laundry part of it itself. When most people listen to this now in today's contemporary, they think of a fancy washer and dryer, with all the bells and whistles. Tell me about the laundry when obviously you think of getting the clothes and the sheets and the bedclothes clean. What kind of equipment did you use, or how did that work?
I had a big washer and big dryer, and just put them all in when it was time.
Like a commercial size washer and dryer, big things?
Yes.
How'd you keep all the children's clothes straight and all that stuff? How'd you keep everything? Did you put names on clothing, or how'd you keep everything straight?
I remember back then, we just done it.
Well, I've heard from some of the people we've talked to that the kids were all told to put their name in their underwear and all their clothes so they could keep it straight.
I think it was just that way. That's the way it was, but
yeah,
too many things went over the dam since then.
Oh, I know, but that's why we want to get you pick your brain a little bit.
Yeah.
Was it hard work?
Not too not too hard, but
Yeah. Any
just
ironing?
tiresome. Yeah, I done ironing all the time.
What kind of things did you iron?
Everything.
Everything?
All but the sheets, so we put them through the mangle.
What's a mangle?
It's a big, well, I don't know how to explain it.
Like a big washing device?
No, the dryer. I mean, it just dried the sheets as it went through.
Oh, okay.
An ironer.
An ironing device and sort of smoothed them out and dried
Yeah.
them? A mangle. I don't think people know what a mangle is anymore, so that probably would throw them for a loop if they heard that. So you operated the mangle and the washer? And,
Yeah,
yeah. Did you do laundry every day?
every day, all but Saturday and Sunday.
So you were off on Saturday and Sunday. Did you eat at the children's home? Did you eat with
Yeah.
the kids, or
No.
where did you have your meals?
We had our meals in where the help had, and then we had to wait and watch the children eat. Be there when they eat.
So you were kind of an adult helping to supervise.
Yeah,
Then you had your own dining room to
Yeah.
eat after the children ate.
well, we eat before the children eat.
Oh, and then you were there to help kind of supervise. And
Yep,
who did you watch? Did you watch the girls, boys, little kids, old kids? Do you remember?
the little boys. There was two different sets of boys, but they all eat the same time.
How was it working there? I mean, did you feel sorry for the kids that were orphaned and stuck there? Did they feel stuck? Did they look at you as like a parent kind of figure?
Sometimes, and there was only two boys that was orphans. The rest of them either had both parent or one parent.
And they had just been, for whatever reason or another, dropped
Yep.
off there. How long did you work in the laundry? How long were you down there?
From 47 till 53 when she was born.
About 6 or...
I was born in 51. Terry was born in 53.
So Brenda came along toward the end of your career there, and we'll talk
Yeah.
to Brenda in a moment. She's your daughter. She's here.
Yeah.
So you worked there for 6 or 7 years. What did you go on then to another job, or do you
No,
stay at
I
home
just-
mom?
Just stayed home and took care of the kids.
Yeah. Okay. So your first job, really, at marriage, and then your first home was really around the children's home.
Yep.
Yeah. Huh. What was it like at holiday time down there? Like Christmas and times like that? You know, again, you were sort of like parents almost to the children, and they didn't really have much home. That was their home. What do you remember about things like Christmas?
Well, we had to be there in the evening the night before and get stuff fixed ready for them. And they each got the same amount of presents, regardless of what there was.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes their parents would bring more presents, which wasn't supposed to be, but they did.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that holidays were kind of a mixed time, that some kids got a
Yeah.
little bit more than others, and that
Yeah.
some were pretty lonely. Do you remember the lawn social?
Yes, I do.
What was that like?
A lot of work.
Tell me what maybe you would have had to do as far as helping to make that happen. I know there was food and a lot of things going on and tours and
Just to be there. A lot could went over the dam, as the saying is then.
uh-huh.
But
Of course, the laundry wouldn't have been any busier on that occasion, but
No.
you had to pitch in and help out on
Oh,
other
yeah.
things.
yep,
Yeah. Now your husband also worked at the children's home.
he done the laundry or the
Farming?
farming.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment. Was he did he come from a farm family? Would he know?
Well, he was out. He lived out in Central City, but
He
knew.
came from Central City.
Yeah,
Okay. And we'll let Brenda kind of fill in some details here in a little bit too, because I know you're kind of trying to remember everything. It's been just a couple years ago since you did this. What?
Couple.
A couple. They had a farm down there, of course, at the home, and they grew vegetables and crops and had some livestock. And what all did he get involved with?
he had the milking to do, and when they got the pasteurizer, he'd done the pasteurizing of the milk, so it would be safe for the kids to drink, as if it wasn't before.
Yeah. So he
And-
they had a dairy herd and a barn, and he milked a couple times a day.
Yep.
And then the old milk house that we called it later, that was where they brought it, pasteurized it, and got it ready to use?
Well, it was in the building behind the laundry
Right.
where he done it.
Did they have, did they butcher down there as well?
I don't think so. I don't remember.
Okay. And then what about the food that came out of the gardens, like the vegetables and things? Did they can food, or how did they use the
Aunt
food?
Mary canned every day. It had to be. Canned all the fruit and vegetables.
Yeah. Were you pretty close to the Zergers? Obviously, you have a connection there. And were you close to them even after you left there?
Oh, yeah.
Did you go back and visit?
Yep. It was his cousin. Aunt Mary was Bill's cousin.
Huh. Did you enjoy the job?
Well, you had to, whether you wanted to or not.
Yeah. And how many children did you have? And they came along during this period of time when you were working there?
I had one, my daughter, and then my son, 2 sons that's passed on, and another one.
Okay. All right. Well, let me give you a break for a second because I'm thinking I don't want to wear you out here. I'm going to throw the microphone over toward Brenda for a little bit and give you a chance to catch your breath, all right? Brenda, how are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good, good. And why don't you, let me make sure we're still getting you. Yeah, you're good. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, give us your full name and address and a little bit of your background so that people know who you are.
My name's Brenda Simross, and I was born while my parents lived at the children's home. Right now we live in Marne, and we lived there until September, well, about April of 1953 is when we moved.
About 53.
Mm-hmm.
What are your, obviously your remembrances would be that of a child.
Yeah.
At least during that early stint, and then maybe back to visit. What memories might you have of the children's home when it was up and operating?
I don't remember a whole lot, being only about 2
Yeah.
and a half years when we left, but I remember we have pictures of the apartment, and I remember that, and remember going back to visit.
Mm-hmm.
And,
what was it like to go back to visit? Because you've been a little older then, and some of the kids there would have been almost your age as a child.
Just enjoying, just enjoy seeing, some of the people that used to work there or worked there when I lived there. A couple of the older ladies that, I think one of them was Tommy, but I forget what her last name was.
I've heard the name Tommy too.
And Edith Wiley was another one that worked there.
Edith?
And she and her sister Grace were real good friends of the family too. So, yeah, I remember seeing them. But going back, mostly was at the lawn socials, and then when we go see Aunt Mary and Uncle Walt, who also happened to be my godparents.
Godparents?
Yeah, they ended up.
What are your memories of the Zergers? And obviously, they must have been people with big shoulders, because I mean they were really parents to hundreds of children that grew up around here, that grew up through the home. What are your remembrances of them?
Well, Aunt Mary and Uncle Walt, even though they were kind of small in stature, they had the biggest hearts and they had the biggest shoulders you could, to take on the responsibilities that they had of being parent or house parents, you know. But they was always fair with us, always, as far as coming to visit with them. They were just happy to see us, and we got to visit with them in their apartment there, and that apartment was, I really remember, parts of that apartment.
That was in the children's home.
And that was
Do you
in the
remember what floor it was on? Second or third?
Second floor.
Second floor? Where they lived. That was their residence.
Yeah. There, when you went up the front steps, right inside the door was Uncle Walt's office. And then as you went towards the hallway, then if you went to the right, you were going towards the boys section of the dormitories, and then if you left to the left, and you went clear down to the end was the girls. But if you went to like 2 doors down, that was the door into Aunt Mary and Uncle Walt's apartment.
For their residents.
Yeah,
So part of their deal, just like it was for Verna, is that they had a home. They lived at the home. The home was their home for a long time.
Oh yeah. But I can remember them being strict, but being very fair with kids, and being loving, very loving with them.
Imagine how hard it'd be today to find a couple that'd be willing to do that.
Yeah.
How hard that job
that
would be.
would be very hard to do, because
just like being a giant foster family with more kids coming in all the time. Getting to know the new kids and children leaving and
But I think some of the kids that are especially roaming the streets nowadays could benefit from somebody like that, if there was somebody like that.
Well, I wanted to get that. Let me get Verna's take on that first, and then yours. That's one of the questions, Verna, we've been asking people, is that you saw the children's home, you saw how children were taken care of and what happened. Do you think we'd benefit by having more of a children's home per se instead of the current foster family arrangements?
I think the children's home would be.
Because it was
strict. I mean, they were strict with the kids, but they let them have time out too, so...
Yeah, time to play.
Yeah.
Brenda, let me get your take on that same thing you just talked about. That is that. Do you think that we've sort of lost something by having? I know the criticism of homes is they're too institutional, and that young people are better served in a foster family environment. Of course, that assumes that's a good foster family.
Having lived there, even though I was real young, and then but coming back for visits and all. They were very fair with them. All the kids went to school. They didn't be able to get out of school. They went to Sunday school and church. They got to go, as you've seen the couple pictures in the paper, where they got to go to the Midland Theater, or they got to go to places, But I think there would be kids nowadays that could really benefit from being in an environment where you're loved and you're taken care of and you're given 3 square meals a day, and
you're safe.
You're safe, yes, definitely. But you got some type of environment that is worth it.
Verna, did you have another thought about the children's home and what its value?
Each had their own bed in a big room. They all slept in the same room, but they each had their own bed, and they got good meals. It's just something that you don't know what it's like unless you live there.
Yeah, I understand. Is there any other... yeah, everybody's got a little cough here. Are there any other thoughts that you'd like to share? Any remembrances from having been down there, and both as a visitor and also a worker?
Well, just the kids all would like to come over to our place. Sometimes the bigger girls did.
Oh, I mean over to the laundry?
Yeah.
Did they help you there?
Some of the girls did.
What did you have the girls doing?
Fold the clothes and stuff.
So you did have some extra sets of hands there to kind of help after everything were clean and dry?
Yeah.
Where did the children's clothes come from? Did they make clothing? Did the parents bring the children clothing? I mean, obviously the kids grew while they were there. Where did the clothing come from?
Well, a lot of them got them homemade. That had a woman that done the sewing, and she made clothes for some of them. And I don't remember where the rest of the clothes did come from. Whether it was just from different people or what.
Yeah, the bed clothing, I assume the sheets and things came from the county.
Yeah.
Do you remember the county commissioners at the time? I'm told the county commissioners used to go down there and have lunch. Do you ever remember that?
No, I don't know who was. That's been too many years ago.
A lot of water over the dam, right?
Right.
Brenda, do you have any other remembrances you'd like to share from your time down there? Anything that... I'm just kind of curious what the kids did down there. Before TV really became a big deal in the 50s and 60s, And I know this is sort of in that era, but I'm told maybe they had radios or record players. Do you remember what they did to entertain themselves or any of that when you went back as a child?
I know they had a playground out
Back?
on the west side of the children's home. They had a playground, and at some point in time they put a pool in for them.
Where was the pool? I've heard there was a pool.
It was on the west side of the building.
In that grassy area?
In the grassy area,
Was it just a little wading pool, or what did it look like?
I'm not quite sure what it was. I think it was a little bit deeper than a wading pool, but I know it was to the southwest of the building there a little bit. But the playground is mostly what I remember. You going out in the back, out the back doors down in the basement, where each side had a play area for them to play in when it was bad weather outside. But you go out the back doors and go up the steps, and of course where the parking lot is now was all grass, and then you go down behind to the barn, back in that area. But
so the barn was back behind the home?
down behind.
Okay, because there used to be a chicken coop back there too, I believe.
Yeah.
So all that was torn down later.
Yeah.
Do you remember the farm?
Not very well, but other than just from visits, from coming back. But just visits with Aunt Mary and Uncle Walt and Dorothy Ann, and then the socials. I remember those, where it was just row after row of tables in a big square. They'd take, I don't know how many tables they'd have, and then you'd see all different types of food, because people would either bring in food or they would cook it and bake it there at the children's home. And then I remember Spring Hill Bottling Company.
Up on
They
Summit
had
Street.
they had they had a portion of the tables there that they'd bring in loads of bottles of pop, whether it was
Orange Crush or
Orange
whatever.
Crush and what's the grape knee high and the red soda,
Yeah,
that
I
type of
remember
thing. And they had one section of the area, and then out front between the tables and East Main Street was where the pony rides were. They'd bring in some ponies for the kids to play with, ride on. And then of course on I think it was the northeast section of the lawn was where the 4-H band played.
They came out for a
When
concert?
they'd come out and they play every year at the social.
Yeah.
And I think they had some rides there, maybe little rides for the kids, but
I remember just from having been there later is the food. They
yeah.
had
They had
grilling hamburgers and
they had
pies and things.
numerous tables full of food, and then of course some of the tables were open so that people could sit down to eat at them, but the food was enormous.
Now that's Brenda. I'm going to throw it back to Verna. Do you remember, what are your remembrances of that party out on the lawn there?
Just the food, and then later the Grange Hall had stuff there to eat.
Pies and things?
Pies, cakes.
And it was an ice cream social. And I've heard there was a dairy
There's
somewhere.
homemade ice cream at that time.
Homemade at the home?
Yes, they had big crank
Old style with...
style.
Yep. Hard work.
A lot of work.
Was the lawn party designed to be maybe you wouldn't know, but I mean you knew the Zergers. I mean, obviously they made some money there. They charged for things. Was it just designed to sort of bring everybody to the home for a summer social, or I mean, was it a fundraiser for them? Brenda, do you remember? Or Verna?
I don't remember about that.
I think, if I remember right, it was to be a thank you to the community for helping them out throughout the year. Then they would throw this lawn social for all the community to come and see and give tours of the home so that they could see how the kids lived and knew that they were being taken care of, and there was no reason for thinking badly of them, or what I'm saying. that this was a good thing, to show the community that they were really taken care of well and had a happy life there.
That's one of the best explanations I've had of it, Brenda. And Verna, I've heard from some of the people we've interviewed that they remembered greeting people and giving them tours of the home. In other words, some of the older kids actually were sort of on duty on the steps, and people wanted to come through, they'd take them through. Do you remember that, the tours?
Well,
or the kids giving tours?
it must have been some of them after we left, because I don't remember. Of course, I wasn't over there too much, but it just...
She worked most of the time.
Yeah,
you
I
were
was
so busy in
working.
the laundry, you missed all the fun, huh?
Yep.
Well, I think we've got an awful lot of good material. I really appreciate you both coming in on this this day in August 2013, and for you especially, Verna, this is a lot of work here, remembering back a few years, about a half a century.
Quite a few years.
Yeah, doesn't sound like you have any regrets, though.
No, I'd probably do it over again if I had to, but...
Of course, you were young at the time, and that hard work just
Yeah.
That's the one thing, Verna, I've heard, and I'd be curious what, maybe this may be a final question for both of you, is that what I've heard from some of the kids that work there, and or not work there, that stayed there, and I mean, I went to Hazelwood. I mean, I knew the home kids that came up to Hazelwood when I was at school there. It seemed like they all were, they were all had a bond. They were all kind of together, the home kids, because I guess they were all in it together pretty much, and that none of them seemed to regret the discipline or the work ethic they got out of it. They seemed to think that later in life that kind of helped them, that they weren't afraid to work. I mean, do you ever feel that way? Or
Well, some of the boys didn't want to do too much work, but
yeah,
Bill made them do it, so, because after all, they were supposed to.
What about manners and discipline? Was that important, table manners and things like that? Or did they kind of work on things like that to help people grow?
Well, I just don't... Too much has went over
Yeah.
since then, and
Well, I've heard that from some of the people down there, that they felt like they learned some manners and some courtesy, to say no thank you and
Well,
hold the door and things
kids-
like that.
kids did that, but
Yeah.
just a lot of stuff went
Over the dam.
too much for me.
I hear you. Well, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
You're doing great. Brenda, you have any final thoughts on that? And maybe with some of the kids that maybe you saw that later were out in the community. You worked in this community all your life. I'm sure you ran into kids that grew up in the home. It seems that most of them ended up pretty well adjusted.
Oh yeah, I was friends with. I've grown up with some of them, and they remember me from living there. A couple of them's passed on now, but they were. It's like when they greet you, hugs and and
Bit of a bond.
yeah, and glad to see you, and I think a lot of them probably had a better life there than they would have
Wow.
if they hadn't have been there, because of the treatment that Aunt Mary and Uncle Walt give them, and they called them Mom and Pop, and that probably was better to them than they would have ever had otherwise.
And for both of you, we've heard that from several of the people we talked to, that their parents either were gone or alcoholic or gave up on them or died,
Yeah.
and that they wouldn't have had much. Maybe stuck with relatives or whatever. But it seems like an awful lot of people did call them Mom and Pop Zerger. Is that what they encouraged?
Yeah, they
or
did.
Think of them as
They
Mom
did
and
call.
Pop?
They did call them that, and
There was only 2 orphans when
Go ahead, Verna.
there was only 2 orphans when we was there.
The rest of them were just children of broken homes.
Yes,
Yeah.
2 brothers. It was orphans.
You called them Walt and Mary, but everybody else called them Mom and Pop, huh? Or what did you call them?
Aunt Mary and Uncle Walt.
Aunt Mary and Uncle Walt, huh?
It's always been that
Yeah.
all of our lives. So
Yeah. They had one child, right?
Dorothy Ann,
Yeah.
she's the same age as my husband.
Brenda, did you have something else?
nah, I just enjoyed the fact that I got to live there, and I got to grow up with some of the people. I got to know some of them after I grew up, and it very much enjoyed and wouldn't have given it up, for anything. I have no regrets.
It's a big part of your life.
Yeah,
And part of your mother and dad's life
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Can
Well,
only.
good.
I guess I'm the only one that can say, other than Dorothy Ann, that I lived at the children's home with both parents.
Yes, that's right.
You know, and had that in
You had the best of
distinction.
both worlds, didn't
Distinction, yeah, and
Yeah.
being able to have some memories of going back and visiting, and hate to see it go, but you know, and that's progress, and you just move on with it.
you? Yep.
Yep.
Go ahead, Verna.
This is,
That's okay. That's all right. I thought maybe you had another thought you wanted to put
yeah,
on there.
I do, but
That's okay. You don't have to. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.